It's 7:07 p.m. Thank you all for giving us a few minutes between our work session and our regular board meeting. I'd like to call to order the regular June board meeting of the Stevensville School Board of Trustees. Please rise.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. We'll conduct the call of our board of trustees. Nathan. Here. Billy. Stephanie.
Here.
I'm here. Ben. Fran.
Here.
Tony. Here. Jennifer.
Here.
And Dan. 6 of our 8 trustees are present tonight. Due to quorum, we will have our meeting. That leads us into a recognition of visitors by the administration or by any member of the board.
Well, first of all, I'd like to introduce, and David's going to do a presentation, but David Ward from the Bitterroot Trout Unlimited is going to talk to us a little bit tonight, so I want to introduce him. Also would like to make comment, say thank you for the opportunity for me to be the leader here in Stevensville. I learned a great deal from all of you. I learned a great deal from the community. I learned a great deal from the administrative team. Part of my journey that's unforgettable, and we'll be grateful as I move on, and we'll take hopefully the lessons, the good, the bad, with me and try to be better at what I do in the future. So thank you very much for the opportunity, and yeah, this is one last time.
Thank you. Other introductions? All right, at this time, is there board comment?
I would like to make a brief board, couple of board comments. I want to thank the administration. Not only am I a board member, but I'm also a parent. I'm no longer a parent, my baby just graduated. And I want to thank the administration. It was an amazing graduation week. Some things that we have started new traditions at Stevensville that look very bright to our community and to our students, and I appreciate the effort that went into that. I also want to thank each administrator in each of the buildings. I reached out to them trying to accomplish my visits as a board member. They were very welcoming and inviting with me to come into their buildings and walk around and do something that I had never done before as a board member. And so I appreciate your welcoming me into that. I would ask that now that I'm not a parent at the district, to have information about when things are happening on campus so that as board members, we can continue to participate in those things that we may not know about if we don't have children that are part of the district. And lastly, I want to thank Dave. Stevensville is better today having had you in our help, and we appreciate the effort and the time that you have put into being our superintendent. I saw an amazing picture that was posted on Facebook, and I told my children that was probably the best picture I have seen in years, and it was of all of our administrators sitting at the table together. I appreciate the fact that you have brought our district together, helped bring our district together, and am grateful that you will remain in our valley and be able to be a continued part of what happened in the Bitterroot. So thank you.
Yeah, I know. I mean, what I mean, what's your part? Here,
Thank you.
for somebody that had no part hiring you, if I told you 6 months ago, I'd hire you at any one of my companies. I'm gonna stand true. I think you do a phenomenal job. You created a great team, and that's what leaders do. So, the only thing I disagree with, I'm not happy you're staying in the valley. We all know that. We all know where I stand. So.
My tires are still okay.
Yes, Dad.
I wanted to mention briefly, I had an opportunity last week to go to Helena and participate in an genomics training, which was a really cool event. There were like 100 people there. Most of the people that would be on the decennial study team, which is a group of people designated to look at public education, specifically public education funding and the funding model, every 10 years. This is it's truly the second one, although there was sort of work done 10 years prior to that. So, but officially it's really the second one. So it's still kind of uncharted territory for what they're going to do. But the training was great. It was a really cool group of people that seemed to not agree on a fair bit of things, but their passion for Montana kids was congruent throughout. Everybody wanted to do the best, and honestly, the support for public education in that room was much higher than I think I've been led to believe in the past. So I'm excited about this session. I think mostly what I want to tell you guys is the interim sessions, interim committees can still be followed on legmt.gov. So you can still get updates, you can still watch the videos or the live streaming, you can see what their process is, and you can see where there might be a window to provide testimony or input. So I recommend everybody to stay posted on that, because this will be a big determining factor for how the funding model goes for the next 10 years. So thank you. And then I'll stop talking in a second, but I also wanted to thank both Dave and Christy. It'll be a big change with that table doing a full reset by our next meeting, and you guys have both done amazing work here, and you've both changed the district for the better. So appreciate you both very much. You'll be missed.
Thank you, Stephanie. And agreed with all. Maybe a couple more words on that and what we're missing later in the meeting, and so certainly appreciate that. My quick board comment, I want to thank each administrator in each building. Although I not had direct experience, I saw some things happening either in buildings that my children were in, including ones that my children aren't in, and it appeared to me that everybody worked hard to make the end of the year go super well, which is hard to do, and do special things for kids. So I know how it can be easy or preferred to just keep things in check and just get to the last day, and instead I witnessed people doing things that kids were doing. And that's really cool. So graduation obviously was the big thing that everybody thought it was a great graduation, well done. Thought the things that the primary kids were doing was super cool too. Thought the new things the middle school kids got to do, new experiences they had, new things. That's what they remember, in my opinion. It's not one more class doing the same thing. So well done. All right. At this time, we'll open the floor for public comment. Time for comment on matters that are not on tonight's agenda. Topics for public comment do not include any pending legal matters, private personnel issues, or private student issues. The board cannot enter into any discussion during general public comment. The board may occasionally ask questions to clarify comment or correct inaccurate statements. Is there any public comment? Yes.
Hey, thank you. Sean Lenahan, I am an assistant high school football coach here. I appreciate you guys giving us an opportunity to talk. Coach Messridge is here too, and also one of our players, Dylan, his son. We are just here because we know that the process is now ongoing to hire a new head coach. And we would like to just offer our endorsement full-throated for Brad Armour to be considered for that position. Most of the coaching staff would like to be here. Some of them had some other priorities that they had to get to tonight. So speaking as a unanimous front, we would like to endorse Brad to be considered for that position. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Additional public comment? All right, we'll start with our items of business here on the agenda, which start first tonight with the approval of minutes. You'll note, go to your section of minutes there. The first minutes to look at are from April. Date on those. April 8th, our regular board meeting, our April 8th board meeting. Is there any corrections or changes to these minutes?
Ben, I do have a couple of changes. I made a typo on line 97 and I listed Kathy Cook as the head high school girls soccer coach, and I should not have. It should have said Sabres Soccer Club. I should have just said, referenced her as Sabres Soccer Club. And I changed that on your copy. And then on line 289, I misspelled Sarah, and I added Armijo, and it should be Sarah with an H and Armijo after her name. And that was it.
Thank you.
Mhm.
All right, and that's corrected in the final copy.
Yes, it is. And those were the only two that I had brought to my attention.
Yes. Good. All right. Other questions or corrections about? Is there a motion? Fran?
I'll make a motion to approve the April 8th minute correction as stated.
For a second? Jennifer, second. All those in favor of approving minutes with the corrections as stated, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Moving on to minutes from April 16th, one page of minutes, meeting that did not take place due to lack of quorum. Any corrections or changes to the two moments there?
No.
Is there?
I'll make a motion to accept the meeting minutes as presented for April 16th.
There a second? Second. Stephanie and Nathan. All those in favor, please say aye. Oh, I'm sorry. Jennifer and Nathan. Jennifer and Nathan. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. A special board meeting on April 24th. 3 pages of minutes there, some hiring and items related to insurance. Any corrections or additions to these minutes? All those in favor of approving the minutes as presented for April 24th, please say aye. Or, I'm sorry, you need a motion. You need a motion.
I'll be happy to make a motion.
Fran.
I make a motion that we approve the minutes from April 20th.
Is there a second? Fran, second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. May 13th.
I do have 2 corrections on May 13th. On line 20, I need to remove that line.
Okay.
And then on line 175, I put Nathan Bean and it should have been Tony Hudson. Sorry about that. I got carried away. And that's it.
I meant to catch this earlier, I believe 171, Stephanie, I believe her last name is R-O-T-O-L-G-H.
What is it, please?
Oh, PH, yeah.
How do you spell it?
With a PH instead of an F. R-O-D-O.
And that's on line 71?
71, it's
Oh.
volunteer hires.
Okay, I'll make sure I get it changed.
Any other changes or corrections to the May 13th?
I'm going to approve the May 14th minutes.
Tony? Your second?
Second.
Stephanie? All those in favor of approving the May 13th minutes as corrected by the board clerk and by the trustees that brought us clarification, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say sign. Motion carries. We will approve claims. We have 2 months of claims. We have April claims starting with 42,431, and May claims start with 42,442, and then we have May student accounts. So 2 months of claims here. Questions about tonight's claims?
I had a few brought up. Do you want me to go over the few that were questioned or not?
You are welcome to. Yes, sir.
Okay. Claim number 42474, which was for a payment to the town of Stevensville for the SRO. And it was just a question on if that was for the entire school year, and it is for the entire school year. So I just was clarifying that. And then there was another question on claim 42492, and it was regarding some finance charges and a late fee, and it was on the visa. And I was just clarifying that we did have a late fee on one of the visas again, and some of the finance charges were residual from previous months that were on there. So we are sending those overnight each time, and so we're still working on that. So that was the only other questions that I had. And then there was a question, that was it for claims. That was the only other one, so.
Thank you, Grace.
Mhm.
Other questions? Any questions specific to the month? Any questions about food reforms? Okay, all right. Well, if there are no questions, it worked well in my opinion if we could approve April claims starting with 42,431 all the way through May claims in the amount 42,499. Totals on those and that is our.
Oh, Ben, if you didn't see the sheet there, the total for
Oh,
every.
yeah, sorry.
Sorry, you got it, okay.
Yes. The April claims are abbreviated claims of $17,547.02. The May claims are the full month of $285,015, and May student accounts are $22,330. Is there a motion? Fran? Second by Tony. All those in favor of approving April claims, May claims, and May student accounts, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. All right, thank you. Motion carried. We'll move on to our consent agenda. Items on tonight's consent agenda have been organized as such due to their similar nature and may be unlikely that the superintendent or chair will require individual discussion. Any trustee has the right to request that an item be removed from the consent agenda and be debated and acted upon by itself. Does any trustee wish to remove an item from tonight's consent agenda? We have 3 employments, a number of resignations, 7 resignations on tonight's consent. All right, seeing none, trustee approval of the consent agenda only pertains to those items that trustees legally have the right to approve under Montana Code annotated 2-3-202. Is there any objection in approving the consent agenda as presented? Seeing none, the consent agenda is approved. We'll move on to some informational items.
Can I make one comment
Yes,
before you
you
go? I've failed to mention my left-hand person over here because she's on my left, but thank you.
You're
My
welcome.
partner in crime the last couple of years, and wish her well in her new endeavors, and thank you for all your hard work here.
Informational items. So we've got some great things on the screen there to our right.
Yeah.
So we'll start first with Superintendent
So,
Dennis.
yeah, David, you are up for Trout Unlimited, and the floor is yours. So thanks for being here.
My first question is how do I change the slides?
Oh, boy. I'm going to go take a seat over at the keyboard,
Okay,
and I'll be your controller.
Thank you. Anyway, I contacted Dave a little bit of time. Our purpose here is to let you know who we are, what we're doing in your school, and to thank you for the opportunity. And then our Trout Unlimited chapter was chartered in 1974 by my friend Marshall, and all volunteer organization. It's really oriented towards conservation and that of cold water fisheries. So this, the first one is the Bitterroot Buggers program, and I'm hoping we can get a little more involvement with Stevensville. It's something that was started by some members 29 years ago. Hard to believe we've got a lot of kids in there whose parents are there. It's a partnership between, right now it's a partnership between our organization and Hamilton Middle School. It's a program of students from 9 to 14 years old, and we have 7 sessions after school, say 6:30 to 8. They start off with trout identification, stream ecology, insect identification, and then fly time. And then at the end, we teach them how to fly cast. And then at the very end, we take them up for a day of fishing and a barbecue. We've had more than 900 kids do the garden program, so we consider it successful. And many of our volunteers and parents are the instructors. So this is something, hopefully we're close enough that we could invite Stevensville to participate in that. And I can stay in touch with the school and put the word out. This is some photographs of that. We provide them with a lifetime kit and a rod at a greatly reduced price. Goes over pretty well. And that's the fishing day at the end of the next pond. Wayne Larson is kind enough to donate to this. The Trout in the Classroom is the program that is in her school right now. I'm working closely with Tyler Joyner, who I found just absolutely superb teacher. And it was something that was started 30 years ago by Trout Unlimited on a national basis. There's now more than 100,000 students a year who go through there. And she started it in the Valley 5 years ago. And this is the second year of doing it in this school. The first schools were Hamilton High School, Vanessa Hathledge, Corvallis High School, Jeff Kaiser, and their whole school, really involved in it. We're going to be expanding that into additional schools in the valley as the interest is there and capabilities there. So one of the things is, in terms of finding a good school for them to be, the teacher and the students going to have to be able and committed to monitoring the water chemistry, the temperature, and doing everything they can to help have the trout survive. So here's what this looks like. We get about 100 fertilized trout eggs from the hatchery of our lead. We deliver those usually on the 2nd of February. And then they hatch and grow a little bit at a time until the egg sac disappears. And then they grow into fingerlings, and those end up being released at the end of the year. We had one phenomenal trout Corvallis last year, the big one in the center that we've ever had. It eat 65 of those compatriots. When we get to Hieronymus Park Pond, it probably ate more. Anyway, that concludes. This is something, and this is pictures of Tyler's kids doing their release down at the pond at Weed Neck Refuge. Excuse me, not the Weed Neck Refuge. Other. And then some of the students from here actually got to participate in the Bugs in the Classroom thing, which is a macroinvertebrate inventory we're doing in the river. It's the 3rd year of it. And what we're doing is picking same locations every year, sampling the bugs, having the large bugs, having the kids classify and identify them and count them. Those are recorded. And we're now in our third year of this. We should start to be able to see some trends and what's going on in stream health. There's a massive decline in the insect populations. That's not a good thing. If they're stable or growing, that's good. So starting in 3 years, you should be able to see those trends. So this is some of what goes on there. We go out and have the kids collect in the stream, never above their knees with a net, bring them to shore and clean out the gum. And we classify them into 3 main categories. And then they go back to the classroom and they do a more in-depth identification of them. And so we've got a marvelous woman from Brazil who comes out and helps with that. She loves being with the kids and she's very skilled. So this is what we did at the Mancow Refuge Project this year. And students from here and I am basically going to help. So it was a very successful project. We're going to be working out there for 2 more years to make sure that all the plantings we did were successful. And the outcome, to cut short, the outcome of this project was opening up an additional 2.5 miles of Hermford Creek that is now spawning habitat for the trout. It should have, over years, it should have a dramatic, positive impact on the river. The amount of trout that spawn up there. Excellent. So, thank you. It could be possible to do these things with cooperation with schools. Great questions about what we're doing. What are thoughts?
When do you, when is this off for the kids? You said between 9 and 14, but.
Oh, that was the Buggers program that was in the fall.
Yeah.
The trout in the classroom begins, where first of all, we'll take them out to see some trout reds like in September, just to see what this whole spawning process is. And then in January, we get the eggs. And in each classroom, including here, there's a 55-gallon aquarium that we've provided and a chiller to keep it around 53 degrees. And then there's detailed technical support in terms of keeping the water chemistry the way it needs to be so that the trout can survive. And the teacher, in this case, was really fortunate to have Tyler. He's really sharp and on top of it. He had probably one of the highest success rates of raising the eggs that anybody ever seen. Did I answer your question?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, if I may, so for the Bitterroot Buggers, it's an applicant, there's a limit of 35 kids per year. And announcements go out, and I'll make sure that John gets one when we advertise it for this coming year. And we have it down in, it's been held always in the Hamilton Middle School because they have a room where we keep all the stuff. But we've had kids, we had kids from Hamilton, kids from Corvallis, and a bunch of homeschool kids from Corvallis North. So it'd be wonderful we get some kids from Stevensville, and we get enough parents fired up, maybe, you can get something similar started up here, down here. But I'll make sure John gets a notice when we start advertising programs.
You said there was 9 classes?
7.
7? And how long are they usually?
They go from the kids get there about 6:30 and they're over 8.
Anyway, thanks again for the opportunity. Go.
You guys engage in infrastructure and some of these things, like I've personally built several fish condos in the Mitchell Slough. You guys participate in that, and like in the Burnport Reeves, other places?
No, not in Mitchell Slough. The project you're probably familiar with this one.
Tony Marnell is one of the finance ones.
Oh, okay, yeah. No, yeah, I know where that is. But we haven't done anything on Mitchell Slough. We've done, most of the stream projects we've done have been in the upper part of the valley, up above Painted Rocks, because that's where there are some pure stream, West Slope cut through. But
But the thing we did in New Mexico
yeah,
was definitely the infrastructure.
yeah,
It
it was.
pulled out there was some stuff that was put in when they built the refuge, barrier to fish passage. So that was all pulled out and we put a big 65-foot bottomless culvert.
Yeah.
And now the fish can pass through, breathing through theirs.
You know, you ever walk that trail on the refuge down there?
I've never walked.
Shortly after that culvert in, the fisheries biologists went out there with a brown trout swimming up above where the stand. You know, there was a vertical pipe culvert which prevented the migration. You're probably familiar with that. And so they took that out and put the culvert that Dave mentioned, and within a couple of days there was a brown trout passing through there.
Okay, thanks again.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm busy.
We'll move on to our superintendent's report. So probably final superintendent's report.
Yeah, so in your packet, there is a budget report. Contents are listed on the front page. So a project started much earlier than what I would have normally started this project, just trying to get some sort of good handoff and transition with Mr. Conan. And so these are very early. Normally what would happen in this process is we would have finished our June reports and actual expenses in most of these areas. So you have two spreadsheets. Well, you have multiple spreadsheets. You have and this is just the general fund stuff. So you have estimated 24-25 costs. What I tried to do is project some of those higher and estimate some of those, and then give you kind of a running budget of where we are moving into next year in the elementary and the high school. So those numbers are preliminary. So this would be something that I can hand over to Mr. Conan, and then he can finalize numbers and tweak this a little bit. But there's a framework to work through that. So you have both the elementary budget, the high school budget, some very early projected transportation information there as well. You have some tuition fund, and I want to point out that with costs of in-district special education services, you're going to see a pretty significant increase in what we're asking in the tuition funds, and that is to provide special education services to our students in district. So you'll see that in the packet. Those are preliminary numbers. What will also happen is we have costs from our students that have left our district and enrolled in other districts. We will have some cost exchange because of that, but all of that will happen at the OPI level, but we will need to levy some of the amounts based on what other schools submit into OPI for that. One of the things that we've been working on, and hopefully this can continue, is more diversified control of funding in our buildings, so that in my office, it's not the funnel that slows down progress, but rather the distribution of funds that goes out to the schools. And so hopefully we can continue to make the change of getting our administrative team trained in Black Mountain to be able to control the purchase order process and that sort of thing. So in this packet, you have what has been submitted to the building level admin for their various accounts that they would control at the building level and take that on. So that is included in your packet as well. A proposed use of title funding where there are some goals and potential uses of what title funding is available. This is a e-grant program that has to be submitted through to the government to receive title funding for students. And then in addition, just an award letter for our advanced opportunity grant, which is another funding access for folks to consider. So, that's a lot. I'm going through that very fast. And John and I have gone through this as well and I'm always going to answer the phone when somebody calls and asks questions, and we'll try to be as helpful as I can be in the transition. So that's budget stuff, preliminary early things, so that there's at least some framework for that transition. Next on my list is just an oversight of goals and objectives. I'll just kind of hit some highlights. I won't go through line by line and give you a synopsis of every single one of these. But I will say that some areas that I think there has been some good achievement is in the core curricular areas, in the work involved, and John did the lion's share of this work with the admin team in working through essential standards. And really, we talk a lot about data and we talk a lot about measurement and what do we want to be good at, but I think the starting place is knowing what you want first. And so that has really been something that has been near and dear for me is going through that process. So that is definitely a highlight. And something that has been a tremendous amount of work on our admin team. And the excitement of that is that in the end, you have adopted a curricular resource to help support some of that work, which I think is a huge, huge positive moving forward. We are continuing to work through some of those curricular things, and they'll have other projects. Employee excellence is the next goal that I'll hit. I wasn't able to have exit interviews with 100% of our certified staff, but I know it's not perfect, but at the same time, we didn't have a lot of turnover that wasn't retirement related in terms of folks leaving our district, which has not necessarily always been the case. And so, although I didn't interview all, there are a lot of the exits have been due to retirement, which I think is a good sign. I think that the administrative team did a really good job at really involving the staff in trying to determine what professional development looks like, and did some surveying and did some just conversations with their leadership teams, and really tried to refine what was most important because we have limited time. And that's what I think is really a challenge for schools, is that the time that you're given, when you think about a teacher in front of their kids during the day, they're in front of their kids 6 out of 7 hours of that day and expected to plan the 6 of the 7 hours in one. And so it's hard to make progress in schools because people are paid for the time that they're put in front of students. And that's important, but I also think that the planning aspect of that, having a good plan for being in front of students, I think is a missing piece in schools across Montana, is that there's just not a lot of planning time. But I think our admin team did a really good job at trying to figure out what the priorities were for professional development and offering something to our teachers that is relevant to them and things that they actually need. They did some good work with that. Okay, so goal 3, community engagement. I thought we did some good work initially, and I know our buildings did better work than I would say that I was able to accomplish at the district level, but more community engagement in terms of here's what's going on in our school. Through a new website, through social media, the administrators and secretaries and office staffs in those buildings really did a good job at changing the narrative about Stevensville Public Schools. I think you can feel that today. I think you know when you talk about with the community about Stevensville, and they feel, boy, I hear really good things, and that has become a common answer that I have heard. And I think that although we didn't necessarily tackle every objective there, I think we made some true headway in that realm, and look forward to more of that. Safety and wellness. We had a lot of discussion last summer about student behavior and management. All of our buildings have a MTSS system, at least initiated. It may not be complete, but they have all started that work, and some of them had that work in place, and to monitor and problem solve around student behavior. And I think that they've all made some headway with that. It's not a perfect process, and it's not a process that is ever probably going to be perfect. But it is, I think it's improved things quite a lot. We have done some other safety things this summer. We have cameras new cameras will be installed in the middle school. We will get rid of the old Hikvision cameras and be moving to a Verkada project. We have additional door readers and ADA compliance in many of our entrances in our buildings, which was a priority for us to get some of that stuff figured out. So we were able to tackle some of those. And then operations and capacity. And this one makes me feel bad. I feel like I very much missed the mark for you on this realm. We had set out to be more thoughtful in reporting to you more often about what was going on in terms of operations and that sort of thing. But yeah, this is an area that needs attention, but I also want to caution you with the transition. It may need attention, but it needs support. It needs patience, and it needs training. And so that is a delicate area. So just a little, I guess, a piece of advice moving forward in that area. So that is a very quick synopsis of the goals and objectives. We, the board, the administrative team, the teachers, the paras, everybody that works in the Stevensville schools really had some part in all of this. And it really, truly can't happen without the people that work here, and that's who does the work. So grateful for that. So there you have it.
I want to thank you, Dave, not only for the review of that. We had talked earlier in the year, we had talked prior to Dave's first evaluation, that there would be a second evaluation to be around that. I appreciate Dave not only committing to that process, being open and honest about it, but really doing it in an environment where you do not have to, privilege. So I think it makes a better district, and sets John up for success too. I appreciate that. Did not mention after the budget piece, which is honestly even a bigger lift, that I had reached out to Dave a week ago in advance of this meeting, working on the agenda, what we can accomplish, what will this meeting look like. Knowing the budget is usually an August thing, that we get a June overview, and I feel like Dave and Christie have knocked it out of the park. This is way more than a June overview of August work.
feel super good about that. We continue to get better and better each year at having a budget and having line items and knowing where, money needs to be allocated, additional money in future years, because things cost more money. Seeing what those changes look like, shifting things around, so far more than I thought budget. Questions on the superintendent? Thank you, and then we do have a special meeting, somewhat budget related, it's a procedural thing.
Yes.
June 26th.
Get one more shot at me.
One more, a new meeting, so.
Yeah.
Hopefully we can have a quorum in that meeting, or we feeling that we would not have a quorum. That's a quick item.
I had good response from the messages that I sent out, and so, yeah, should be good.
Good. All right. Mr. Coleman, curriculum report, which is your monthly report, sir.
We have several items in the report. I'm only going to get on a couple of them tonight. Big thing is we have Amplify coming tomorrow. So what we've been working on with the whole curriculum review process this year is coming to fruition tomorrow. The majority of the staff I offered them 2 times that they could get this initial training either in June or in August, and a majority of them are coming tomorrow. They want to get their materials, they want to look at the materials, and they want to get ready for this fall. So I thought we'd be, initially, when I did my first survey, we were about half and half. Half wanted it now, half wanted it in August. I just did 2 for that. And but a majority of them are coming this first time. So to me, that's exciting to see people wanting to get their hands on the curriculum. One thing we had them do right before the end that ended up being more fruitful than I thought was inventorying and getting into all the books. So 6 pallets came with curriculum, and the way they were organized from a company, well, there was an organization. It was every grade level in every pallet. And so my plan was to be able to push out, like, a grade level would give me their old curriculum, then you get your new curriculum, right? So I know I'm getting the old back, they're getting the new to put in place of where they were at, and that was not the case because it was all in different pallets. And so I had several students helping me during recesses to help divvy out the curriculum, and I had kids working hard to help me. Get the curriculum out to teachers, but to also take their old curriculum back in. And you're going to see that tonight too. In one of the action items is we have the old curriculum and a couple different series back curriculum. You'll notice I put the copyright date on some of that stuff. We have a full room at the staff lounge in the elementary full of old curriculum and old material stuff. So we also have some of it in the middle school as well. I'm going to do middle school and elementary first, and then I'll do the high school. I'll probably start doing this next week. That'll be, their disposal will be in July then. Anyway, I had shared with you a timeline last month of where we're at. I kind of crossed off the things that are happening. It's kind of nice to see things when you put it on a to-do list with dates that it's actually happening at that time period. And so some of the what Tony talked about in the first meeting was, he's asked me this question and pushed this question and keeps in the forefront of my mind, like, what can we do to get this going now, right? Like and understanding the whole curriculum process, as a curriculum director, I can totally write or steal someone else's curriculum guides and use them and put them in place and say, hey, we're done. But the power in the way that we're doing it is the fact that teachers are digging into the curriculum, choose their essential standards and what they want to teach. We find curriculum that meets that, and they develop units, and it's the power of the process. And that's the part that takes a little while. That's why I said it's going to take 2 to 3 years to have all of our curriculum mapped out into a guide for you. I'm creating a visual tracker to help Beth as she takes over this job. a visual tracker of where we're at in the process. And so we can update that and update you guys on which subjects are done and how we're doing going across. Obviously, we have ELA is going to be our big emphasis this next year as this curriculum comes in K-12. And we're going to spend a lot of time with professional development with ELA and making sure we implement it correctly. Getting Amplify trainers back here again a couple different times, as well as online, but also bringing in a third-party person that we had used called Side by Side Consulting, kind of come full circle. They work with several different districts on implementing programs, and so it's not just coming from the company, it's coming from someone who helps implement curriculum. So I feel really good about that partnership we have with them, and they'll be coming in to work alongside our teachers, being in classrooms, observing what's going on, and helping us implement the curriculum. So my goal would be to have ELA all mapped out by the end of this next year. And then obviously we're working with Math Next. Middle school and high school math teachers are currently working on their math now. And so we're going to have to differentiate our professional development a little bit as we go forward because just the different nature. Elementary teacher teaches all subjects, while middle school and high school have their subject areas that they specialize in. And so that curriculum development, we're going to have to continue to keep differentiating what that professional development looks like. The hard thing, and going back to what Tony asked me in the first meeting, was how can we get this going faster? Right now, I have maybe a day of PIR and maybe 3 hours a month to work on this stuff. That is all the time we have. There isn't any more time built in, and unless we start looking creatively at our calendar overall. Some school districts, and I'll throw this out as an idea, some school districts can increase their school day. If you increase your school day 2 to 3 minutes, that's a full school day that you don't have to be in session, right? That you could be using for professional development. So some school districts, and of course it goes back to CBAs and negotiating and looking at the calendar. There's a lot of pieces that go into that. But what it does is it provides more time to be able to work on this type of work that we have. Another way to do it, I'm sure we'll do some of this too to get it knocked out here, is having committees come in and help. Pulling teachers from classrooms during class time, unfortunately, to work on this stuff. It's important that we get a guide going. That has to be one of our number one priorities as we move forward to get all of our curriculum mapped out. One of the things that we worked on just this last week that I was super proud of for the amount of time that we put into it was our Indian Education for All. Right now we're creating lessons for every single grade. It's not that it's not being taught, but it's not being taught in a systematic way, so we know that it's getting done, and so we can spend money on resources. Every single classroom is going to be every classroom is going to be teaching at least 2 Indian Education for All lessons throughout the year. They're integrated into their curriculum, and so I have teachers that have come in this week, had elementary come in, and we already have knocked out from ELP all the way to 5th grade. Mm-hmm. And so middle school, high school teachers come in next week, and they'll work on the lessons for 6 through 12. And we'll have a guide of that, and that'll be something we share with you guys as well. And then that'll keep getting looked at and reviewed every single year for pertinency and deciding what the expectations are going to be. It's one thing to require those lessons, but how are you going to track to make sure that they get done? And so those are some pieces that we're working on with the admin team and with our classroom teachers. Other than that, I think I've hit pretty much everything on there. Anyone have questions on any of that information so far?
Thank you, John.
Thank you. Huge. I appreciate your commitment a lot on all levels.
I think from a board perspective, our big part, and it was exciting to be able to approve it without, in my opinion, hesitation, was the price tag. I felt good of moving forward with what we're doing because of what we completed. Had that just been brought forward as this is what we need to do, here's the price tag, without all the work that had gone into it, I would have felt much different. It feels like a good place to be.
it's not only exciting to see new curriculum, but we had tears from some staff members saying they were so excited and happy about what we have coming forward. And so you don't get that very often with curriculum, right?
Thank you. We'll move on to our action items. Item 7 on the agenda. We have several action items tonight. The first one, hopefully there were no tears, but there was a lot of work, is a collective bargaining agreement, a series of, I believe, at least 11 meetings to ratify a contract between the Board of Trustees and the Stevensville Teachers Association, Local 4379 of the MFPE. It's a 2-year contract. Those of us on the negotiations committee, I think we're familiar with probably every page and every section. So we'd be happy to answer questions. Ms. Motley, president of the Stevensville Teachers Association, would be happy to answer questions. I think I certainly hope we're mutually proud of the work that's been done here. It was a good process. We started out from day one wanting to positively impact the salary matrix. That was our primary goal, and I think we did. In fact, that was one of the first things we whacked out, and then from there on out, we worked on some language enhancements and some key things that hopefully make Stevensville the best place to be a public educator in the state of Montana. So, questions from the board on ratifying this CBA? What's in front of you? This was a lot of. Tony?
So are you pretty comfortable with the teachers being able to take days off just at random? I mean, I understand the concept behind it, whether it's good that they, instead of calling in sick on the last minute, that they schedule that. Is there any way to monitor that or to, at all, where it doesn't happen? Where it doesn't get taken advantage of in a sense? I don't know. I think it's really cool you do, because I think it's, for me personally, it was huge for teachers to be able to do that. But sometimes I worry about how you there's too much latitude. Just curious your thoughts on it.
I think with any group, you're going to run into the people that will push the limits. And I think that that's something that the admin will have to monitor. And if it seems to be something that happens frequently, I think that's their job to put a stop to it. I know teachers were grateful for that, because now they don't have to, we've had a number of teachers have to come before the board and say, can I please have 2 more days to go with my child, and I think. And that eliminates that process. And I think that's good, because now they feel like, okay, I can be a teacher, but I can also be supportive of my own family. And I think that's critical. So I honestly don't think it will be abused. When we talked to the staff, we told them that, you abuse it, it'll be negotiated again, and you might not like the outcome. So, it's got to come back on them also. But it also has to be, the admin doing their job too.
I'm super happy it's in there.
Yep.
I think it's curious how the staff do yourself.
In fact, we didn't even bring it to the table, because we've been shot down all the negotiating sessions prior to that. Nope, we're not gonna do that. And then we came to give our list, and they're like, you're not gonna bring this up? We're like, yeah, no, we've been shot down every time, we're not gonna do that again. And the board said, well, we think you should. So we reinitiated it and pulled things from previous years and got it done. So it's wonderful.
You just stop us, super happy about everything's done.
Yeah. Yep.
I just wrote it on it.
Thanks to the board too, because it was truly, it was very collaborative. And this is the first summer I won't go into summer negotiating, so it's wonderful.
Other questions about the CBA or public comment on the CBA? On the future CBA, yes, Dave?
Dave Hackey, maintenance supervisor. I have one, and I know you guys probably already seen our hallways. But we're sitting here at the base pay for janitors on the bottom of the barrel for seasonal school. I can't get a janitor. I'm losing one more probably by the end of this month. That leaves me with 2 janitors to clean the whole complex. And we gotta do something. I'm not gonna continue working 10, 12-hour days so that this can get done. My body's getting tired and I'm getting tired. I'm just bringing it up that we gotta sort of see some way that we can get more janitorial staff. And I think somewhat of that's gonna have to be in the front side. Because the benefit package isn't really a benefit package other than sick leave and vacation leave. They can't afford the insurance. If you're pulling $800 out of a check that's only 14, do the math. I mean, that ain't a benefit. So, I just want to bring it up because it's been weighing harder on my heart, and I talked with Dave about it, and when I was probably not at my best time to do it. And again, I say sorry to that, Dave, because that ain't my normal way of doing business. But it's really wearing on my heart. It is. Because we got all this money that we put into these buildings, and they're going down the tube. I mean, it's just that simple. When I first got here, we had 9 janitors here. That was 16 years ago. And now, ever since that, it's constantly, if a janitor leaves, we don't hire. And it's getting to the point where we've got more space and fewer janitors.
I don't want to keep you, I don't want to not acknowledge and engage in what you brought up. I also don't want to keep you here later than you have to be. Are you available to keep this thought for a couple items? We will very much talk about the agreement with the custodial and maintenance.
Oh, okay, I thought we were already there.
No,
We got 3 of
we're doing
them.
it one at a time, so.
I was playing with the 3.
And you were out, exactly. I totally understand what happened there, so totally understand. We'll just keep on this one and we'll cut
Okay,
it out.
I'm sorry I jumped ahead.
No, we didn't know, we had to take care of it.
That's what happens.
Understand, distracted, understand, so. With the STA, CBA, question public comment. Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion. I motion to approve the contract with the Stevensville Teachers Association for the 25, 26, and 26, 27 school years as presented.
Is there a second?
Second.
Fran and Jennifer. All those in favor of approving the CBA with the STA for a 2-year period, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Wonderful, thank you all.
Yes, thank you.
Yes. It's big. They're all big things though. And so that takes us to item B, which is our collective bargaining agreement between the Board of Trustees and the Para Educators and Secretaries Association. It's a federation of Stevensville support staff, NEA, MFT, NEA, AFT, AFL-CIO. I don't know that anyone's here tonight to represent that group. I appreciate Dan and Stephanie's work specifically, along with Mr. Dennis in negotiating this particular CBA. Stephanie, any quick comments on this, or are we ready to?
I think we're ready. It was, they're a great group to work with. They came in ready with some discussion points, and it was a good conversation.
Wonderful. Frank?
I just want to let everyone know that I will be abstaining from this vote since I have a daughter as a paraprofessional.
Okay. Thank you for the announcement. Thank you. All right. Any questions, comments, including public question or comment on the collective bargaining agreement for a 2-year period with the Stevensville Para Educators and Secretaries Association? All right, is there a motion?
I move to approve the contract with the Stevensville Secretaries and Paraprofessionals Association for the 2025-26 and 2026-27 school year as presented.
Thank you, Stephanie. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Jennifer's, motion is Stephanie, second by Jennifer. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. And abstaining is Fran. So motion passes 5-0 with one abstention. Thank you. Moving on to item C is recommended approval of a 2-year contract between Stevensville School District Number 2 Board of Trustees and the LIUNA Local Number 1686, which is our maintenance and custodial union. And now would be a good time for questions and comments, and then further comments as well. Mr. Mackey. So no one has anything to say? No one has anything? So, thank you, Dave. You're not thanked enough, and nor are all the people that make this work possible. So, I guess diving into that a little bit, and it's not necessarily something we would fix through a CPA. There were 9 custodials here a couple years ago, not anymore. I don't monitor this day to day. It does seem like we're trying to always hire. So it's not that we're eliminating those positions, is that correct? We're trying to hire them.
It's just, I can't get an applicant.
It is your opinion, okay, and so get an applicant. Not for lack of trying, is it, and it's your opinion that we're underperforming the market?
Well, I ain't gonna say we're underperforming. If you look at the other school districts, I think we're right there, but the other school districts are doing the same thing as us. Only thing is, they're running Puritan trying to clean buildings and they're having even worse trouble. So, and putting out more money if you go with Puritan.
With the private contract?
Yes, private contract. But I had one girl that applied, did one day and said, this job ain't for me, and that was end of it. So it's not like it's a glorious job. I mean, you work from 4 to 12:30 at night, so it's not like, you know, it's just, you don't get even the night differential out of it either. I just trying to bring this to you guys' attention, because I don't want to see my buildings dropping worse than what they are.
Sure.
And that, I believe, is for all of us. We want to produce what appears to be a great place to work, and we're not. I can't do it. I'm just being honest here. I'd like to say I'm Superman, and I can, but I don't know how to go any further with it.
Jennifer?
I know that Lone Rock lost their custodial, went to private, and I know they've tried to go back and hire, and I know that hiring custodial staff is almost impossible, it seems like, all around. The credit union I work with also have, we have custodial staff, who we hire a private company, and I know we've gone through a number of different agencies and whatnot. So I don't think it's just us, and I don't know what the answer is, but I think we have to figure something out.
Well, and that's why I'm here. I really, it's not that I say things are wrong. I'm just trying to point out we gotta find something. And,
So I agree with Dave. I think it's a 2-part thing. I think 1, we don't pay enough money. And 2, I think that it will help a lot. I see other construction slowing down considerably. There's a lot less work out there. I think there'll be a lot more people looking for employment, but I think we have to pay more money to attract people. Either way, we're low on the pay scale for talent of any value, in my opinion. I don't 100% know what every man does, Dave, but if you want people who can do anything that comes along, I cost more money, so.
well, I'm not looking for anybody. I'm looking for custodial cleaning. That's what I'm looking at. Maintenance, grounds, I'm gonna say that we're great there, but I know, eventually we'll get the large area lawnmower. Lord, that'll free up a ton of time when we're not spending the whole week mowing. There's issues there too, but I'm just really out after for the custodians is what I'm after right now. And I just don't want to see our buildings drop any more than what it is, where they're at now. I went through graduation and I ran through all the buildings, I don't know how many times, and I was appalled by the amount of dust bunnies I've seen in the hallway. Appalled. You know, yeah, I can sweep them up, but how many other people are seeing the same dust bunnies that I missed because my eyes were somewhere else at that time. Because I do look up. I don't know why, but it seems like we find a lot of stuff up that we need to clean too. But that's what I'm after. And just what we can do to do it. That's all I'm looking for.
Is it possible to get something written down, how much time and hours we say if we would work harder coming up with a bigger mowing machine? I know that's a big deal, and it has to be almost an act sometimes.
During the course of the summer, you got, out of the 4 days, we were working 4-10, 3 of those days would be on the mower. And then, Mr. Dennis has talked about, looking at about getting a contract to do the baseball field, because that is that much more mowing than we got this year. We have all 4 baseball fields coming up in like a week. So that's just that much more that we have to do. And that is where my whole heart's at right now, on the mowing side and the maintenance side. We can get that done, and those guys do get a fair wage. It's the janitorial side that I'm here for. And I wasn't in on negotiations for that because I'm not part of the union, nor can I be part of it. But as a supervisor of them, I just want to stand up for them. And I know that they need help and benefits, I guess, but with the insurance the way it is, that isn't a benefit for them. And I just want to point that out. We need to start looking at the financial portion of that. It's not even feasible.
I will share, and I don't know exactly how it looked this past year. We had a quick look at insurance. We know there's some things at the district level we really like to talk about. We know when you look at insurance district-wide, there's a significant group that finds it to be a valuable benefit, and there is a significant group that finds it not meet the point. What I would ask is if we find ourselves in a place where we are, once again, evaluating what we do with insurance and looking at options, please encourage your staff to participate in whatever survey goes out there. Acknowledging, and I'm the first to acknowledge that your staff is probably not sitting there, with bated breath next to a computer waiting for an email to come out from the district office.
Managers don't even look at a computer.
Yeah, and I get that. So I bring that up saying it's possible we're not capturing that voice as well as we need to. And so if we are able to look at that, we'll want to communicate with you and get folks next to the computers that look at that survey and say, this is what's important to me and my family, or this is what's important.
I printed those out and put them in the break room.
Okay.
I mean, I guess I can hand feed them, but
Yeah,
I'm
no,
sorry, I'm a little old.
No, and that's thank you. Fran.
It's interesting that you bring this up, Mr. Hackey, because I was looking at not only your wages, the custodial wages, but also our paraprofessionals' wages. And let me just give you a little bit of a comparison of what's happening. I have a school graduate that just graduated high school that got pulled into a job making $17 an hour today. Last summer, when he worked through A to Z, his lowest paying job for the summer was $20 an hour. So we're paying our paraprofessionals who are dealing with our most vulnerable students on our campus lower then our high school our high school students are working and we're doing the same thing with our custodial. So that being said, if we want to retain those people, we have to get their wages higher. I know it's really easy to sit here and say that. Finding the money is the harder part of that, and so I get that. But I do think it's something that we really need to really consider and look at when I have a high school student who graduated last week and went and worked for $17 an hour today, which is higher than we're paying either one of these groups of people per hour.
Additional board comment, public comment. These are always difficult things to sort through, and I guess the biggest difference in between what we do here at the school and the private sector is we work in these sometimes 1 year, sometimes 2 year agreements that people bring forward, so we kind of get ourselves set to do this. So as we move forward and enter a motion to approve this, I don't want to sweep anything under the rug that was said, but knowing that we would be approving what's put in front of us. So it's an interesting setup. I don't think, Dave, you might be able to clarify the maintenance and custodial are bound by state law to be a part of a union and a negotiated contract like this, or could dissolve that and have more flexibility?
There are some, I mean, we would have to do some work around that, the dissolving of the bargaining group. Some districts have all classified within one group and negotiate with classified staff. Others have separate unions within that. So there's the ability to do some adjustment there. I appreciate Dave's comments, and Dave and I have kind of talked through all of this too. I just think that there's some potential for some planning strategy around this too. And it may not always be about wage. It might be about the structure of the work and when and where that may happen. So there's lots of things that could be discussed as potential solutions to this. But I do feel like, I mean, this is maybe a step in the right direction, but maybe it's not quite enough, because we are trying to live within our means a bit here, and recognize this, but definitely some planning around how to free up time, how to free up people, how to pay people better, how to structure work differently. I think you can have a conversation about a number of those different things, and whether or not it's a bargaining group issue or not, and that's part of that conversation too.
Depending on how this works, and I'm new to this. So let's say there's 9 people getting paid $16 an hour. We currently have 3. I'm not doing the contract. So can we have 6 that get paid? Is it a group of, is it a lot of money, or is it just the personnel? That person.
I think it's a combination of both of those things. And
because if it's a lot amount of money, I think we need to utilize our A to Z services. I use them in every one of my companies. Yeah, you pay them a little bit more in the beginning, but they're pretty nice because that person is not an employee of mine. They get hurt, well, you should go talk to your employer. I can fire them without cause, which is nice in the state of Montana, and send them down the road. You can set those probationary periods how you would like, but you can also get funny with money and get you some, and then work on what Dave's talking about. Really, because both named Dave, but what Dave over here is talking about as far as utilizing our time better and managing the work. So if there's a pot of money that is allotted for 9 people at $16 an hour, and we're just sitting here waiting to automatically fill the other 6 spots, which probably ain't gonna happen as per this conversation, then we need to get better at it. So why not try to fill 4 of them and pay everyone $20 an hour to make it more appealing? The people that I'm paying $20 an hour for are gonna be a heck of a lot more ambitious to come work here than they are gonna do right.
We would, so it's, I think both of those things, and then the third rail, which is the union, the union-driven collective bargaining agreement. So there's no flexibility to make a change midstream. As logical as it might be, it would be a violation of the union to do, even something that both sides would agree to would be great, with the caveat that any of these can be altered midstream with an MOU. So
So the next question comes up, does Stevensville have to hire a union?
yes.
They have.
No, they don't have to be union
Right.
members, they have to agree, they don't have to be union members, there's only one union member. Cliff Wallace is the member that represents.
But does Stevensville have to hire union workers?
They're not union workers, but so they do not have to pay dues to the LIUNA, only one person does. But by working here, just like teaching staff does not have to join the SDA, but they agree to work within the parameters of the CBA that governs it. So, no, there's no requirement to join any union, but
So,
it's, right. So the way around that would be, some of these creative ideas you're bringing forward.
but Dave Hackey couldn't start Dave Hackey Custodial Services, and we hire him and 3 of his buddies for $20 an hour, because they would still have to operate underneath.
Right.
this agreement.
If they're gonna work for the school. Now, if it was A to Z, that's what you're saying, you already said it earlier, A to Z doesn't work for the school. You just hire a contractor but if they're going to collect a W-2, if they're a W-2 employee of single school district, they fall within that. Yeah.
But I think what happens is you lose consistency because they're not your employees. You don't have the same supervision over them because they're not your employees sometimes. And I know at least that's what I've seen
Yeah,
in
they're
other
always better.
schools is they've had issues. Contract, custodial not doing what they want them to or not doing it to the same level. That's their expectation.
I'll put spot on that. We had A to Z here for Deanna, which is one of my janitorial, worked for A to Z through all the trial period before she became over a school employee.
Yeah.
So we ran A to Z. A to Z just has a hard time getting replied, and people, not so much that they can't get them. Yeah, they can get them if I want them to start at 7:30 and shut off at 4:30 in the afternoon. But when I say 4 o'clock to 12:30, that's when I end up with the, nope. So we've been trying going through A to Z, I just putting that out there. Tony?
So, all public works jobs, if you go through a union, we pay no benefits to the all union, everything gets paid to the union, they pay the benefits. If we are a public works job that's non-union, we pay the benefits directly to the employee. So rather, they get their insurance money, they get their retirement money, all that gets paid directly through to the employee. And so is that possible? Because it sounds like the insurance here is almost a negative. We're paying money for it, it does nothing for the employees and nothing for us.
This is a really complex decision, and there's a lot of layers to this. Not sure that we're in the right setting to figure out what the solution is. But I do think that there should be some work done on a solution. That much I guarantee.
Yeah, and all CBAs have an option of an MOU, and we exercise MOUs all the time. I mean, not all the time, but from time to time with the SDA, I can't say that we do them a lot of the others, but they're all available. So I think there can be solutions talked about. Tony, I don't know a lot about what you're talking about, Dave's right. I do know that we are held, and I believe it's law to everyone nationwide, it's not just schools. But on the insurance thing, you can't treat one class of employees differently than another. And so we can't offer, I'll pick on Dave, we can't offer Dave or John to come a sweetheart insurance deal because we want to, attract a superintendent that we don't offer to everyone else. It's have to offer everyone. Now, what you're gonna.
So even if they're a different class employee, you can't change that out.
No.
So trying to wrap my head around, this is an ongoing problem, and, it's something that I think gets a lot more thought than we express to you, Dave. And we're worried about the workload, and we're worried about the lack of staff and the upkeep of the buildings. So we hear you, and I'm glad that you're here tonight talking about this. My mind is trying to figure out how to move forward in the best way, so we're addressing the issue and really hearing you, being able to address it over the summer, see if we can get into a better place by the fall. It's hard because, like you said, everybody in the valley is dealing with the same thing, so there's something about it that doesn't make it feel super hopeful, but that's kind of my favorite thing to deal with. So I wonder if it would be a practical decision to consider still approving this evening so that we can engage the 4% salary increase for your crew. And let you know that we're going to keep evaluating it going forward so that you don't have to keep the buildings standing up over yourself. And see if we
And that's what
can
I'm after, really, to be honest with you, is to bring it to the table and find out if we can find a solution.
And I agree with what Stephanie said. I think it's in everyone's best interest to approve the CBA tonight. I think it's good for employees to know they have a contract consistency. I believe, and I know it's in front of me, but I'd have to know which section to look in. I believe we would be held by law to, and Vicki, you might know from yours, I believe an MOU can MOU be brought forward by either party, or it's brought forward by the labor party, and then the district.
I don't know. I think it usually comes from the district side, and then.
I know a letter to open comes from labor. So.
Yeah. But I think that would be, they can say, we'd like to discuss this
Right.
and go forward with possibly doing some type of an MOU, but I don't know.
There's a rule around that.
Yeah.
So Dave, thank you for being here. Like you said, this isn't your salary. This isn't, you're doing this because you're trying to do the right thing for your people. It doesn't affect you. So that being said, like you said, you weren't part of it. It would be, a conversation with Cliff and let him know that we need to, that there's interest in talking through some things and to see what might work on maybe some creative short-term things that could lead to some long-term successes. But it would be a conversation with Cliff as the single member of the LIU.
And I talked to him prior to those negotiations, I don't think he brought anything up to you. I could be wrong on that, but.
Yeah.
Okay. Is there a motion?
I move to approve the contract with the Stevensville Maintenance and Custodial Union, LIUNA, for the 2025-26 and 2026-27 school year as presented.
Stephanie, is there a second? Nathan. It's been probably moved and seconded to approve the collective bargaining agreement with the local LIUNA for maintenance. Definitely appreciate the productive and necessary discussion around this. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Thank you. We will move now to approving some non-union bargain assignments and salaries in your packet. You have administrative and director and district supervisor assignments and salaries. So you'll see what folks are currently receiving and what proposals we've done for the year ahead. With that, Mr. Hamilton, yes, appreciate you being here. I wouldn't have thought you would have made the trip for a June meeting, and you're not on board. That says a lot about you, so thanks for being here. Board members, are there questions about the administrative and district supervisor and district director assignments and salaries as presented? Public comment on these salaries. These are for 1 year as presented. Again, there is no collective bargaining agreement. These are non-union positions. Right. Appreciate the folks in the room here who represent a lot of these and the work that goes into them. Know that there are a few days, maybe more than a few days in the year where it's feels like every penny is earned. Is there a motion?
Move to approve the contracted wage for the food service supervisor for 2025-2026 school year as presented.
Oh, thank you, Stephanie. We'll do one more time. Okay. All right. Is there a second on the food service supervisor? Tony, thank you. Motion. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. We'll now approve the facility supervisor salary for the 25-26 school year. Dave Hatchman. So moved. Tony, is there a second? Second. Nathan, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Approval of administrative salaries for 25-26, starting first with the elementary district. Is there a question, comment? Public question, comment? Is there a motion? So moved. Nathan? Seconded by Tony. And Tony, how do you vote?
Aye.
And Fran?
Aye.
I vote aye. Stephanie?
Aye.
And Nathan? Aye. Motion carries 5-0, elementary district only. Approval of high school administration salaries as presented on the sheet in front of you. Jennifer? Second. Second by Nathan. Question, comment from the public? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Noting and appreciating Christy's time here with the district and wishing her well for sure in her move to Lone Rock. And still in a way part of our district and grateful for that, excited for her future there and what she'll take to Lone Rock. Leads us to the necessity to appoint an interim district. Dave, anything else you can share with us?
No, Shelby Zeiler is a new assistant clerk payroll professional in our district office. And so it makes logical sense for her to be appointed as the interim district clerk until we are able to hire a permanent business manager and have the board reappoint a permanent clerk.
Is there
It makes logical sense, but is she willing? Is she agreeable?
That she didn't have a choice. No, she understands that and we would have had her here today to practice. I'm saying this in jest, I'm joking, kind of. But she is attending the MASBO Business Professionals meeting this week and getting some training there. So we would have had her sit in so that she could have a practice round today, but it didn't work out because she had other training to do.
thank you. Is there
I'll make a motion. I would to appoint Shelby Zeiler as the interim Stevensville district clerk.
Thank you, Brian. Is there a second? Second. Thank you, Nathan. All those in favor of appointing Shelby Zeiler as our interim district clerk, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. We'll move on to second reading policy 3310. which you'll find in your packet. This is related to student discipline. And of course, we saw this policy. Did we see this at the last meeting?
You did,
this
yeah.
is the one we saw. Yep.
And we did send this back to committee and then brought it back. So yeah, you've seen it a couple different
We've seen it all.
times.
Yep. So no changes, of course.
No.
We're on the second reading
Right.
now. So is there any comment or any comment from policy committee on this? Is there a motion?
I move to adopt policy 3310 as presented.
Is there a second? All right, Tony, Stephanie, and followed by Tony. All those in favor, is there public comment? I'm sorry, is there public comment on policy? Thank you. All right, all those in favor of approving, second reading policy 3310, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Out of district enrollment, Superintendent Ennis, I have some packets. This is all elementary.
It's like all elementary today.
No, okay, so there's not a second grade county.
No.
Okay, very good. So Angie, the student in your packet, ending in ID number 440, we would be. Yes,
Sorry, would you say that number again?
ending in 440.
Second group in that.
Yes, that student is McKinney Vento, so we need to accept her. This is her home district.
Okay, that was my question.
Yeah.
We would be engaging in that, or? So
Yes,
this is home
she,
district. then why-
so she qualifies as McKinney Vento, so she gets to go to any school that was originally her home district, no matter where she moves.
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
So that's why. it's
Yep.
listed that way.
Yep. And
And,
she'll qualify, I'm sure, for next year as well, so.
Okay.
Yeah, their housing situation has not changed.
Okay, and, under the Hinton federal law, is there a transportation piece that
Yep.
we would consider?
So this year we had to provide transportation, we'll have to provide transportation next year. We did that in the form of gas cards, so
Okay,
the family transported her and we paid for the
okay,
gas.
so that's how we handle it.
Yep.
Questions on these elementary, yes, Fran?
There are two there's one in second grade and a fourth grade that are listed as Harmony. And under truancy, most of it is marked, NA for those students. Is that because they have been homeschooled or in Harmony consistently?
Which number? Like which?
Ending in 1867 and 7651.
This 1867 was previously homeschooled only,
Okay.
no school records. And then what was the second number?
7651. I figured that was it, but it wasn't.
Same thing.
Okay.
Yeah, I believe siblings.
Other questions?
I'm there to accept, this enrollment as presented.
Thank you, Tony. Is there a second? Second. Thank you. Been moved and seconded, to accept as the district enrollment as presented. Nathan, how do you vote? Stephanie?
Aye.
I vote aye. Fran?
Aye.
And Tony? Motion carries 5-0, elementary district only. We'll move on, to the agenda, no high school out of district, because we know there are none. Okay, all right. Clear that agenda item. And now, action item I is a request for proposals on a transportation contract. So, I believe that is a separate handout in front of everybody tonight.
Yes, and you should have a packet at your table. It's a sizable packet.
So we are seeking a new private transportation carrier starting with the new school year, or that coming school year. We are through this complying with all the, hoping to comply with the posting notification for 21 days. The hiring timeline throughout the summer allows us to not be in an emergency situation, which some of you will remember we were in before, and so we would be able to engage in a multi-year contract, should that be the best interest of the district, as well as the contractor. So we are seeking board approval tonight to release a request for proposals. Superintendent Tennis has done quite a bit of really good work here in the past 10 days or so on working with a consultant who specializes in this sort of work in the state of Montana to pull together an RFP that addresses quite a few things that are really highly specific to Stevensville. You'll notice those in red in the back pages. We have the formation, soon-to-be Superintendent Conan will be pulling together a transportation committee. This will be a committee of the district, not a committee of the board. There will be some board members that help advise on that committee, but it will not be like our board committees. They're truly functions of the board. So the frequency of those meetings and some of that work is still being worked out, but probably looking at a group that meets about quarterly or something like that. And so some of that work then has got a jump start. That committee, of course, has not met or not fully been named, but Superintendent Tennis through the consultant has done quite a bit of work in what it would look like to have a district day-to-day operations guide for transportation. And these are the items in red. These are highly subject to negotiation with the future contractor to figuring out what's mutually agreeable for all parties, but puts the district in a place where we lay out what we need on a day-to-day basis from people. So that's the second half of this document. First half of this document is, I call it a standard RFP, but that wouldn't be fair either. It's specific to Stevensville. It's not just boilerplate stuff. It's really got a lot of good Stevensville specific language and need in it. And it gets us going on a really fast track this summer, but also a legal track in timeline. It's very specific to the days that we're looking at and state law on looking at such a large contract and being compliant in all areas. So probably a lot to look at tonight, but it was important to get this in front of the board.
Yes, yeah. A couple of highlights that I'll point out. One, again, the timeline. So as soon as, or if the board is to approve the request for the RFPs, we would then be in the ad portion of this and keep the advertisement in the newspaper for the next 21 days. Bids would have a due date of July 7th and be reviewed by the transportation and superintendent, and a recommendation made to the board on the July 8th meeting, which would award the contract to who the district would seem as the appropriate carrier. There are many items in here in red. Couple of things, just the 3.0 RFP requirements section lays out what we would like to see from potential providers and for our routes and for our sped routes and activities as well. We'll point out that this particular request is a time, not a mileage contract. And so it is laid out in terms of time. There is a transportation manual in the document, mostly in red at the end, that is very detailed and very specific to some of the shortcomings that we've experienced. And so that is a document that we would hope would be something that can be mutually agreed upon between the district and discussed collaboratively, so that expectations are clear and we know what we're in for moving forward. So there it is. Any questions?
And I will say, as you flip through these final pages in red, I believe it's our intention to come up with a collaborative working document. So we wanted to lay out some things as a starting point and then work with a hopeful future contractor that says, I see what you're asking on this bullet point. Let's instead reword it this way. And I think that's where we want to go with things. This isn't a hard and fast every bullet point.
I do want to change one item that I missed in my proofreading. If you will go to section 3.0, because this is in the requirement, this is just a typo is all. There is in 3.2, section number 1 of the bullets says 11 regular ed and 1 sub driver. Right now that should be 9.
Okay. And on section 1.5, table 3. There's a typo there.
1.5.
Yeah, table 3, which starts on one page and finishes on another. Yeah, see the last year of the table is.
I gotcha.
Is inverted.
Okay, table 3.
It
Okay.
says the 29-28 school year, it should say 25 third school year.
Got it. Okay.
My exposure to transportation contracts is limited to 1, but reading it a lot. But so what's the point or strategy or intention of going with a time contract instead of a mileage contract?
Simplified billing, simplified communication in rates and times and expectations.
Is it common? Like, do transportation providers also?
It is becoming more common from what I understand. Yeah. There were a few examples presented to us this afternoon from other districts that use a time contract rather than a mileage contract.
Good questions from the board.
Have you done a math on what we're allowed to bill OPI versus what you believe the salary rate adds up to?
Ask that again.
So there's gonna be a difference in the math and what you bill OPI and what the salary rate adds up to. Have you done that now?
So are you talking about what we would budget in the transportation fund? We have done a projected budget for transportation fund for the school district back in March. So that piece is in place, and we had intended to increase that. To what level, that would be approved at the August meeting. But what the contractors present in the bid process, then there will be calculations that would be able to be done, performed based on the cost of the contract, that we would then be able to adjust what we are permissively levying the community for that service. So
And I think we're in a place to adjust a permissive levy.
We are.
in August if we need to.
Yeah.
I think, and maybe I'm not understanding the question correctly, but the missing part that will make it hard to do the math is we would need, we can estimate, which I think we should not, it would be improved to do at a board meeting, but advise we don't. But, not knowing what bids might come in, or what contractors might say, this is what my regular ed route, which is really the foundation of the whole contract, is what's the regular ed route and the rest of everything else, what's the hourly on that, and then if it's well out of reach, then we have some soul searching to do. And if if it works within, as you correctly pointed out, but we can, because it's past through, it's kind of what we can get from OPI to fund this, then we sit down and negotiate a contract.
I think this should go out sooner than later.
So my intent would be to, whatever, if we're done making changes, I would make those modifications first thing in the morning and have this available. Get the advertisement in the newspaper, have this available for contractors to pick up from the district office.
I'd like to make a motion that we put this out with the changes, appropriate changes we can discuss for advertisement as soon as possible.
Is there a second? Moved by Tony, seconded by Fran. That brings us to public comment questions. This is for me, Brian.
Does this RFP also include maintenance on the school vehicles, the school vans, the cars that,
No,
no?
It does not include
So who's
that.
in charge of that?
Who's in charge
Yeah,
of the
who's
maintenance?
supposed to be doing the maintenance then for the school vehicles?
Yeah, it's never been our contractor, so it would be, it falls.
it would be a function out of the district office. It would have to be.
And no, it does include the 3 school-owned buses.
Okay.
But the school van, the several pickups that, they have, he does a lot of maintenance on, the Kubota, the John Deere. Other, public comment or questions? Further board comment or questions? I know we spent a lot of time this year getting to this one. All right, all those in favor of releasing the RFP with the edits as discussed tonight and some of the technical corrections and giving that in the newspaper for the required 21-day period, please say aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thanks all for the work that has gone into that. It's been a lot. We have a budget amendment for the retirement fund. Superintendent Dennis, can you talk us through that?
Yeah, brief overview of this. So this particular fund, districts levy to be able to contribute to the employer's TRS retirement fund or PERS retirement fund. So for a PERS employee, which are non-instructional employees, the rate is 8.8%. So every employee, we are contributing 8.8% of their salary to TRS, and that is through this levied fund. So every time we have an employee in one of those categories, we need to contribute. So we are right at the very border of where we need to be. and we may need to access reserves to be able to make all of the contributions. But I will say with the increased salaries for the contracts that were approved tonight, with our teachers and our paras and secretaries and with our laborers unions, we will need to increase that a little bit so that we can cover that 10% rough cost for employer contribution to their retirement.
And this requires 2 board meetings any time there's a budget amendment resolution. Therefore, we have called a special meeting of June 26th to follow the compliance of all state laws.
Yeah.
So this is a 2-part, as all are. No further questions? Nobody will be voting once again on this. Public comment? Is there a motion?
I move to approve the first reading of the budget amendment resolution as presented to cover the increased costs associated with retirements.
Is there a second?
Second.
Stephanie and Nathan, thank you. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Superintendent-elect Conan referenced an exciting list of disposal of obsolete critical materials. A lot of things that are random grade levels. I was wondering, what's the difference between random? Anyways, I think the list explains itself, and so are there any questions from the board about that in front of you? Their comment from the public related to disposing of obsolete curriculum. Is there a motion?
I am gonna put it up on our social media. So, on the east side, whenever we did this, we always had homeschool and a lot of food rights would come, good stuff. So I'll put it up on our social media here, see if anyone's up to come peruse through it. If you wanna come look for stuff, come on in, it's in the staff lounge. And, I'll have to talk to Dave what an appropriate amount of time to leave it in there before I take it out.
Because my kids love Dibble's test when we go bring some home.
We have some different.
Yeah, I see that on here. In the summer, we just have a
Contest.
Yeah, yeah.
Contest.
Hey, girls, it's nice. We're gonna do this. That's summertime. All right, is there a motion?
I move to dispose of non-useful curricular material.
Second.
Thank you, Nathan, second by Stephanie. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. All right, we have a couple items left, and we have a Montana School Property Liability Insurance Plan, insurance proposal for the upcoming school year, upcoming fiscal year. This is the MSPLIP. This is an item that we have kind of dove into, talked about before, and got, appreciate the research that the district office did on this and brought back to the board at a previous board meeting. So Superintendent Tennis, give us the rundown on this.
Yep. So renewal rate, we very rarely do I get to say this, but it is less expensive than last year. We've reduced by about $6,000. We've done some, Caleb has done some work around cybersecurity and just increased like the 2-factor authentication and pieces like that, and filters. Those are important features that are really requirements for our liability insurance because there is so much potential for fraud out there. But this is a good protection for the district, obviously, and I have found the representatives from this particular company to be very responsive to requests and information and support and good experience. And so I would recommend that we renew our insurance policy.
That would be at a sum of $170,772.
Right.
For the upcoming fiscal year, down about $6,000.
Right.
Good to see a decrease. Are there questions from the board? Are there questions from the public or comment? Is there a motion?
I move to renew the liability insurance contract with Montana School Property and
Is there a second? Second. Stephanie, seconded by Tony. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Our last action item tonight is a hard copy that was in front of each of you as you sat down tonight in out-of-state travel request for 2026. I do know that this group is already conceptualizing and starting some discussions around this. And then, that being said, this group is also highly aware of the fact that they cannot proceed with any actual planning until the board takes under consideration their request to travel out of state. So they are working within those rules, but also wanting to get going on things as well. So I think the letter points things well. And Superintendent, anything to add to that request?
Strongly support the, this is a trip that they have taken in the past and would support the board approving their out-of-state travel.
The student cost comes at no expense to the district and no school days are missed.
I'll make a motion to approve the out-of-state travel for the FFA. Let's present.
Tony? Second by Dave. All right, public comment? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. All right, as we get close to adjourning, certainly do want to thank and recognize these final meetings and these final days with Christy and with Dave. And so in full agreement with all the words that were shared earlier, and our district is a better place. Better place. I don't know the photo Frank's talking about, but I don't have to know what it looks like because
I'm a little worried about that photo.
I think any setting where everyone sat down to celebrate great work and wish somebody well moving forward speaks a lot to you, Dave, and what you brought forward with that. We haven't always had that, and so that means a lot. That means an awful lot. And so Christy, want to share that, with gratitude for your dedicated service, your accuracy, thoroughness, and focus have left a lasting impact on our school, staff, and students.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Yes. I didn't expect anything like that.
Today, in recognition of steady principled leadership, thoughtful student and staff-centered decision-making, the appreciation of a tenure marked by a deep sense of integrity, collaboration, and a tireless dedication to creating an environment where every student could thrive and our school community felt supported. Thank you. Oh, I'm sorry, Christy, you had something to say?
No, I just thank you very, very much. I've really enjoyed my time here. Thank you.
We're better off because we.
Thanks.
All right, we'll convene for a special meeting on the 26th at noon in the district office. With that being said, is there a motion to adjourn? So moved. Second by Nathan. All those in favor, please say aye. Motion carries. Thanks all.
All right, let's get a picture of you guys with your plant.
I expect to see that hornet in that office.
Yes.